flu is on the move. The virus has arrived in yet another province.
They're concerned about any health problem that's on the mainland. It's not going to stay there.
Showing the vaccine only thought to be 10% effective.
Nationwide, there are already more than 41,000 cases confirmed. Every state in the country reporting widespread flu activity.
As of this morning, 18 countries around the world have reported cases of the flu within their borders.
Numbers out of Australia as of mid-October are concerning. If you get sick, stay home.
Mavericks by Craig Alanson, Book 6 of Expeditionary Force. So I've only got a few friends who go through as many books as I do, and every once in a while we compare notes. And so we were talking about which book series we like the most, and if you could recommend one series, what would it be? And he recommended some science fiction generation ship book, which I will not mention, but I didn't care for it. And he's like, what series would you recommend? And of course, I recommended the Expeditionary Force, as it is one of my all-time favorite series that I've come across. And I'll admit, it was a little bit of a surprise for me. I didn't care for the synopsis that I had read prior to getting Columbus Day, the first book. I figured it'd just be another military science fiction, which is okay, but I mean, they kind of get a little repetitive for me. I mean, you read one, you kind of read them all. Was my attitude prior to getting Columbus Day. And so, of course, my friend asked me what the book is about. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to explain what it's about. Just trust me, just get the book and get it on audiobook. Don't get the ebook. Which, of course, he wouldn't do until I told him what it was about. And so I'm like, okay, it's about a guy who ends up befriending a beer can AI, and they steal a spaceship and they cause all kinds of havoc all over the universe. They're basically space pirates. And then, of course, there's some banter between the beer can alien, whose name is Skippy, and Joe, the main character. And also there's some big giant hamster aliens and big lizard aliens. And, of course, my buddy's like, wow, Chad, that sounds really dumb. But I was able to convince him to get a copy anyways. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I am confident that he is going to enjoy this series. And I'm getting a little bit to this review a little bit late. This book has been out for a while, but it has kind of one of those rare honors of being a book that came out and I saved for my vacation. Why do you say save for vacation? Well, it's because every book in this series I've enjoyed, which is actually pretty rare. I mean, there are books and series that just go on and on and on, and they eventually lose their luster, but this series has managed to get better, in my opinion. That being said, with Mavericks specifically, there's one thing that I guess I wasn't thrilled about, and that is that the vast majority of the book does not have Joe Bishop and Skippy. There's a big chunk of it in the middle that has to do with the characters back on Paradise, and that might be partly my fault for not enjoying it as much as I could have, because I skipped Trouble in Paradise. So there were a lot of books there that didn't have those characters from Columbus Day, and I guess it's been so long since I've read Columbus Day that I kind of forgot about them. And so for a few hours into the book, I ended up stopping, getting Trouble in Paradise, listening to Trouble in Paradise, and then finishing this book. That being said, I think it was necessary for the story to progress past just two buddies kind of palling around the universe and causing trouble, which kind of reminds me of Han Solo and Chewie a little bit, but maybe that's just because I'm a Star Wars fan too. Whether that influenced the author or not, who knows. And there are many things about this series I could point out as being different from other science fiction series, but one thing I noticed that he did extremely well, I think, was the kind of made-up science that the author mentions from time to time. And of course, it's all fiction, but he explains it in a way where it could almost sound plausible. So that, on top of the fact that all this stuff is constantly breaking down on their ship, which also makes it so that the main characters, Joe and Skippy, are constantly being challenged, which goes a long way in developing their characters. So from where Joe Bishop started in Columbus Day to where he is now, I feel like the books have covered a lot of ground, and you really get the sense of being on this journey with the character. And me personally, I can't wait to see where he takes it from here. Every book that comes out gives us a little bit more insight as far as the elders and where he's going on with that. Will Skippy ever end up finding out why parts of his memory are blocked out? Maybe the author knows where he's going with it, maybe he doesn't, but each book that comes out, you get a little bit more of the backstory. So it's almost like there's a few stories being told parallel throughout the series, and you get like little glimpses of the author's widening universe. And on a side note, another little plus about the series is that the author seems to come out with these books pretty frequently. Unlike other series that you get all invested into, for example, Game of Thrones or Kingkiller Chronicles, who get only so far, then wait 10 years, and they're still not the final book. I don't think we're going to have that problem with this series. He seems to come out with a new book at least once a year. I think there's one more already out, not on Audible, but it is, I think, on an ebook. This is one I will probably most definitely wait for Audible. Part of the reason why I even got this book, like I said, I typically don't get a whole lot of science fiction, like military science fiction. But the thing that kind of tipped the scales, aside from the ratings being so high, was that it was narrated by R.C. Bray, which, oddly enough, I was looking at my library on Audible, and there are a lot of books that I've got that he's narrated. Probably the most famous one would probably be The Martian. And since I've listened to so many books done by R.C. Bray, I'm confident that any other series I get narrated by him is going to be outstanding. So that was kind of the tipping point for me. But of course now, the author has done such a great job with the series that I just buy basically anything that he publishes automatically. Haven't been disappointed yet, and I can't wait for the next one. I guess what I'm trying to say here is I can't wait for the TV series. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you next time.